rise and by the Anders for our opening hymn. Don't worry about what it says in the order of service. That's just suggestions. We're going to be singing 95, There Is More Love Somewhere.
There are some seats still up in this front corner here and in the midsection there for those that are in the back. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalists of Sarasota. I'm Aubrey Phillips. I currently serve as Secretary of the Board of Trustees for this congregation, and we're delighted to have both our in-person and live stream visitors here with us today. If you're new here, we invite you to learn more about us by signing our virtual guest book on our website at uusrq.org. For those attending in person, there's a sign-up sheet at the welcome table right outside the sanctuary doors. By registering, you'll receive our weekly newsletter and Zoom links to our virtual events. Please join us for coffee and conversation after the service. And join us in the Reeb Room for a Democracy Action Team post-election potluck. Bring a dish to share or not as we reflect on our impact and look ahead. While Amendment 4 didn't reach the 60% threshold to pass, we hit an incredible milestone, reaching over 9,500 voters this election cycle. Give yourselves a round of applause. That's huge. This means that we met all of the criteria to be recognized as a good trouble congregation, which we know will be important in the days and months and weeks and years ahead of us. Let's celebrate this achievement together in the Reeb Room. I look forward to seeing you. Oh, and next up, we have an update on our upcoming Bid Fest from Catherine Bonner.
So, you're thinking, is it time for all ages? No, it's not. That's coming. But you know what else is coming? Bid Fest! Yay! Next Saturday from 11:30 to 2:30, we are going to have our auction and lunch, and we hope that each and every one of you will come and participate. You will be able to get your catalog of over 100 items worth over $30,000 with lots of fun activities and places for everyone to participate and have fun. And who is ready to have fun? Everybody needs to raise their hand. So there will be online auction for this week, and when you go pick up your catalog outside at the BidFest table afterwards, they will have instructions for you on the items that are available online to bid for, and I hope to see each and every one of you next week. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you, choir. Thank you. So I'm Reverend J. Wolin, the settled minister here at the Unitarian Universalists of Sarasota. And I just want to say, I have to submit my order of service usually by Wednesday, but I do some of my best thinking on Friday and Saturday. So our opening reading today as well is not what was in the order of service. It's by Gretchen Haley. Bring your heart here. Reverend Gretchen Haley, pardon me. Bring your heart here, your broken, tender heart, weary, worried, disgusted, despairing. Give thanks that you can count yourself among the broken-hearted and the grieving, the disoriented and the afraid. Praise the good news that your heart has not hardened in despair or fear. Ground yourself in the grace that you are not alone in this wishing for another world, a life more certain, a time that made more sense, a confidence in the future, a clarity to what it all means. Every new world begins when we show up in community with our broken hearts and refuse to forget our fear and also refuse to shut down. When we keep singing and praying and sighing, when we stay put in the arena, when we find joy even here, laughter and joy and courage beyond what we could have managed on our own. Courage to keep our hearts open, knowing they'll keep on breaking. Courage to let what is beautiful be even bigger than what is broken. And the courage to let this ending be also a beginning. To accept this day, this moment, these people, this hour as a gift. And to say again and again and again, thank you. Come, let us join together in lighting our chalice. As we light our chalice, please join me in affirming our value of interdependence, which is on the screen and in your order of service. I didn't change that. We honor the interdependent web of all existence with reverence for the great web of life, and with humility we acknowledge our place in it.
Now, hello? Am I on? Almost. Can you turn on the pulpit mic? Hello? Well, they're on. Oh, there I am. Whoa, that's a little much. Now is the time for all ages. And today's story is going to include you. So listen for your part and follow along. And thank you in advance to Miriam and Titan for helping me with this story. So today's story is Take a Breath by Sujin Rem. Every morning, all the birds go out to play. They are excited for their first flight of the day. All except Bob.
Oof, I shouldn't have eaten that last pancake.
Bob, he can't fly yet.
Alrighty then, see you guys later.
So he keeps himself busy on the ground.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I give up. Why did the chicken cross the road? Really? No feathers or fur ever? Yeah, speed chess is totally overrated.
Bob always practices his flying. He practices a lot, and he understands things can take time. Sometimes a lot of time.
Oof, now that's gonna leave a mark.
But Bob kept trying.
Need a bigger rock.
Up, too far, go back, keep going back. You went too far. Keep going back, there you go, there's the rock, okay. One more. Another one. Slingshot, Angry Birds, nope, go back, keep going. No, that's the wrong way. Forward, let's all move forward, there we go. Pass the balloons. One more. Pass the slingshot and the angry birds. There to the beanie cap. Who wants a beanie cap like this? I do. Next one. But it seems the harder he tries, the harder he falls.
Ooh, what pretty stars.
So, Bob starts to get nervous.
What's wrong with me?
He starts to worry and he begins to doubt.
Why can everyone fly except me?
Bob, in fact, is really freaking out.
What if I never fly?
A passing bird notices.
Hey, you okay?
Not really, I can't fly.
And then Bob just lets it all out.
So it's like my wings don't work. I can't begin to tell you how hard I flap. My tail feathers, yeah, they're tucked up. Ugh, I just got my wingspan checked twice. Oh, hi, I'm Bob, by the way.
Hi, Bob. I'm Crow, and I totally get it. I thought I would never perch like the rest of my flock. They all just cawed, and it was humiliating. I can't tell you how many times I fell on my beak and wanted to quit. And then, somehow, I figured it out.
So Crow tells Bob he knows exactly what he needs to do.
Oh, please tell me.
Bob, you just need to take a breath.
So Bob thinks Crow must be making fun of him.
Say what? Well, duh, I've been doing that all along. I'm breathing now.
But Crow insists he isn't.
No, I mean breathe. There's a difference. You gotta trust me. Here, let me just show you.
Okay, fine.
So Crow tells Bob to stand tall, but relaxed with his wings by his sides, and continues to give him instructions.
Close your eyes. Try not to think about flying or anything. Breathe in and out through your beak. Bob, stop thinking. Good, good. Now slowly fill your belly with air. Fill it as much as you can, feeling your feathers fluff. Hold it. Now let the air out.
Ah!
Bob is done.
Oops, my bad. I meant breathe out slowly.
But Crow convinces him to try once more. And this time, together, everyone, including those of you in the seats, either stand or sit, but I want you to give this a try with Bob.
Okay, everyone. Let's first reset and shake out our feathers. Settling our feet into the ground. Let's reach our wings and arms up to the sky, stretching our feather tips far from our tails. Then gently float our wings and arms back down to our sides. Now let's close our eyes, letting go of any thoughts or worries. Just notice your breath. Breathe in slowly through your nose and then out your nose. This time in, fill your bellies with air and then let it out slowly. Now again, but this time, hold your breath for a moment before letting it go. And slowly open your eyes.
So Bob blinks his eyes open. He can't believe how much better he feels.
Now that's breathing.
Bob feels great. He feels as if he could just take off and Okay, maybe he needs a little bit more practice, but Bob won't doubt himself again.
Nice breath, Bob.
Sometimes you just have to be grounded before you can fly. For those of you needing grounding, and yes, there are nuts in the plane, for those of you who are needing grounding today, make sure to take your potluck lunch to the Reeb Room for space to speak with our Democracy Action team. Or after lunch, join the drop-in Chalice group that meets in the library at 12:15, where the topic is repair. We just need to take a breath and not throw up our arms in despair, but instead roll up our sleeves, because we eventually can fly together. So now I invite the children and youth who are here to join me in their classrooms, or the teens in their teen room. And if you have any questions, just follow me. Thank you.
Our centering in words today are a poem I wrote for Veterans Day, this being Veterans Day weekend. Honor the veterans in my life, my grandfather, World War I, my father, the Korean War, and my uncle in Vietnam, and as well to honor all the veterans who may be here. If there's anyone here who has served in the armed service, I invite you to stand up and be recognized. Or thank you. Spirit of life and love, we are grateful to all who have served in our armed services, protected us from harm, defended our freedom. May we always be faithful to them as they return home to us. Just as they made commitments for us, may we remember our commitments to them, as they provided peace for us, we hope that they be provided peace of mind. And just as they have fought to protect our freedoms in whatever ways that they did, may we serve to protect their freedoms here. All this I ask in your name. Amen. As we go into a time of silence, I invite us to think about the freedoms that still need protecting. I start? I, like many of you, I imagine, have had so many emotions rise up in me this week. Sort of reminds me what I learned when I was a chaplain reading Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's book on death and dying, when she writes about the stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. And although there are many different papers saying they're not really in that particular order, it still works. The first stage, denial, it is very hard to stay in denial when it is on the front page of every paper, on the news show of every night, the topic of every conversation I have been in on Facebook and in person all week. I think a lot of people are still in that anger stage, looking for people or strategies to blame. And it is true, in retrospect, there are many things that could have been done differently. There's, though, always still that balance between strengthening others who share our values and understanding why people do not share our values or have other priorities than we do. And yes, there is misogyny and racism in America. That is certainly a part of it. But having lived in Iowa for 11 years prior to coming to Sarasota, it gave me a view of how globalization is gutting American manufacturing and jobs in America as companies move overseas where they can pay significantly less for labor. We have to be real about that if we want to say that we support labor in this country. Now, I have also started to hear a lot of bargaining. saying maybe it won't be as bad as we think, putting a positive spin on things. I personally think the coming years will be difficult for many. I'm not going to lie about that. I'm not going to give you false hope. Particularly, it's going to be hard on those who are poor and with marginalized identity, which we have seen targeted by many. We are going to have to protect people and defend institutions in whatever way we can as we work for a better future. I find many as well are in the stage of depression, or that could be called despair, and we need to take time to grieve. That is an important part of the process. Grieve for what was lost, grieve for what might have been. But we cannot get lost in grief, or it will lead to inaction. And lastly, acceptance will take a while, I think. Acceptance that we have to find a new way forward. And it will not be a straight line. The truth is no one, not me, not anyone, knows what will happen next. Different people with different contexts and different abilities may need to respond differently. And we need to respect that. But what we need to do is not to become rigid. We must not harden our hearts. You know, there's an old Jewish Hasidic tale. Whenever I have a difficult time writing a sermon, I always go back to my roots, my Jewish roots and books and stories, because there are great stories there. And the old Jewish Hasidic tale tells of a disciple who asks his rabbi, why does the Torah tell us in Proverbs chapter 6, verse 21, and I quote, do not forsake your parents' teaching, tie them over your hearts always. That's a standard prayer in Judaism. Place it over your heart, whatever it is, whatever prayer you have. And the student asks, why does it tell us to place these holy words, why doesn't it tell us to place these holy words in our hearts? And the rabbi answers, it is because as we are, our hearts are closed, and we cannot place the holy words or prayers in our hearts. And so we place them on top of our hearts, and there they stay until one day the heart breaks and the words will fall in. Mentally, we may know we need to find a new way forward to repair this nation. But emotionally, we may not yet be ready. Because sometimes we just need to be hard to survive. But we should keep practicing repairing our souls so we have the energy and the perseverance to keep moving forward, for our values to become manifest in the world writ large, to melt away the anger, to melt away the hardness, to allow our hearts to be open to new possibilities. I read an interesting book recently titled Burnout by Emily and Amelia Nagasaki. And I know many of you, and the reason I read it because I felt myself getting burnt out. And I know many of you probably feel the same way. We have been working nonstop for years trying to move the moral arc of the universe towards justice. And as an aside, I did read a quip this week, and I don't know where it was, on social media, that the moral arc of the universe bends towards the algorithm. And I think there is some truth to that, actually. The author, though, of this book speaks of 3 components of burnout. 1, emotional exhaustion. 2, decreased sense of accomplishment, and 3, depersonalization. And quoting from the book, just about every system in your body responds to the chemical and electrical cascade activated by emotion. Emotion is automatic, instantaneous. It happens everywhere and affects everything. In short, emotions are tunnels if you go all the way through them. Right? If you go all the way through them, you get to the light at the end of the tunnel. But exhaustion happens when we get stuck in an emotion. I have to just say this makes sense to me intuitively. Right? If we're constantly under stress and our emotions are constantly at a height, whether we can outwardly shut them down or not, our body responds to emotional stress. There have been studies on this year after year. It is designed to do it in short bursts, right, to deal with stress. And some of us do it better than others, I'll admit. But if we are constantly stressed hour after hour, day after day, year after year, whether it is a stressful job, a stressful family situation, politics, life, anything, our bodies and our souls begin to wear and tear. And this happens sometimes because we set certain unrealistic expectations for ourselves. I know I do. My goal is to save the world, and but really it's about saving my world, me. But sometimes, and again, different parts of our lives, we are just in unsafe situations, right? Whether that is physically, financially, or emotionally. Maybe you need to keep a job or you can't pay the mortgage, and so you feel coerced, right? Maybe you're afraid to speak out on a controversial issue because you're afraid there might be repercussions. Those are real things for many people. And in different times in my life, I responded differently to such stressors based on the circumstances in my life, based on my confidence in myself at any given time, and my status in the world. A compelling thought from the book states, and I quote, "Removing the stresses does not mean that the stress cycle is complete. It means two things. It means you don't have to wait for all the stresses to go away before you can start to feel better. And two, it also means that even when the stresses go away, you still have to deal with the stress that was in your body and soul. And so you have to do something that signals to your body that you are safe, or else you'll just stay in that state with neurochemicals and hormones degrading, but never shifting into relaxation. But there's a good news here. I don't want you to think we're always just staying there. There are solutions to reducing stress. And they may seem simple as I tell them to you, but I am going to say sometimes our life gets so complex and we get caught up in the moment of the day and busy that we do not take time to do them. So one, physical activity in whatever way and means that you can do that. Runners will speak of a runner's high. It can mean just as easily, taking a nice walk in the park and looking at the flowers. Or even if you are chair-bound, to just go outside in nature in whatever way that you can and do what you can to do physical activity. It changes the neurochemicals in your body. Two, and I tell you, I did not even talk to Catherine before she chose the book, breathing. I do a simple sitting meditation. You've already taken a few deep breaths earlier. I won't ask you to do that again. 3, positive social interaction. We are naturally social creatures, and genuine relationships reduce our stress. So I invite you to stay after the service for the potluck and meet someone new. Laughter. I remember reading about Norman Cousins. He's an American author. In 1964, wrote about laugh therapy he used to cure a disease that he had just by constantly watching TV comedy shows. So I'm going to try something a little different here. I really want to encourage you to engage with me. We are going to do a laughing meditation right now, all of us together. I just want you to laugh with me for about 1 minute, okay? I don't know if that's a minute or not, but didn't that feel good? It feels good. It's like a release. Yes. Thank you. Next, crying. I know we laughed. Maybe I should have done the crying before the laughter. But in our society, often it's looked negatively, right? Especially for men, right? But it's a release of emotion, just like the laughter is, right? And it's good. It's a very freeing feeling. 6, creative expression. This is one I find particularly healing for me. For me, it's writing poetry, journaling, but it can be any type of creative expression, whether it's knitting or painting or anything that you can think of that is creative to you. And 7, and most importantly, is sleep, right? To give your body time to rest, right? Much easier to do without children. It's been easier for me once my children moved out of the house. I understand that, but it is critically important. For me, I personally use medicine to help me sleep. I do anything I can do, hypnosis to help me sleep, because sleep is so critically important. And it really is, in general, all of these things. It's a calculation of how much stress you have and can handle, and how much time you can give to these healing actions to reduce that stress. We may do it for a day or two, but often that stress overtakes us. So, again, there's going to be a lot of stress in the years to come, and we need to make sure that we do it. But the final lesson that the author suggests, and I'm going to quote here, the cure for burnout isn't and can't be self-care. It has to be all of us caring for each other, right? Self-care requires a bubble of protection of other people who value your well-being at least as highly as you do. So the cure for burnout must ultimately be all of us caring for each other. And this is why we come together in community, to take care for each other and to care for others. And this book points to the science behind the idea that good relationships and communal caring are good not just for our souls, but for our bodies and for our peace of mind. So please keep your health and the health of this congregation in your minds as we now take our offering. Keep playing. Sorry. So our next reading is by Rebecca Solnit. They want you to feel powerless and to surrender and to let them trample everything. And you are not going to let them. You are not giving up, and neither am I. The fact that we cannot save everything does not mean we cannot save anything. And everything we can save is worth saving. You may need to grieve or scream or take time off, but you have a role no matter what. And right now, good friends and good principles are worth gathering in. Remember what you love. Remember what loves you. And remember in this tide of hate what love is. The pain you feel is because of what you love. And now, once more, our choir. So there's another old Jewish folk tale from the teacher of Dubno called the cracked vessel. A leader once had a prized jewel, an exquisite diamond, and they held it to the light. Perfection glinted from every one of its luminous facets. This gem they felt was the perfect diamond in all the world. It was put on display, and people would come from all over to see this perfect diamond. And then one morning, the leader awoke, and upon viewing their precious treasure, they found much to their dismay. There was a single thin crack in the diamond. Everyone was heartbroken. The greatest jewelers were called to look at the stone in hopes of fixing it, but nothing could be done. The crack ran so deep down the face of the diamond that any effort to repair it could make it break into multiple pieces. Finally, one day, a simple stone cutter from one of the neighboring villages stepped forward and said they could save the diamond. The leader laughed. The greatest craft people in the world had seen this gem and deemed it hopeless. How could this stonecutter hope to do anything? Stonecutter said that they would have to take the diamond back to their workshop to work on it. It would take a couple of weeks, but that they would return with it. And the leader and the people, although wary, did not know this stonecutter, but their desire, their hope to have their precious stone back overcame their fear. And in 2 weeks, the stonecutter returned and came to the center of town where all the people gathered. And he took the diamond out of the bag and handed it to one of the elders of the town. And when he produced the gemstone, everybody was amazed. The scratch had not been removed. It remained in its place. The stonecutter had instead etched a rose around onto the face of the diamond, turning the crack into its stem. And the elder, upon looking at it, said to the stonecutter, "You have taken something that is broken and cracked and made it even more beautiful than before." I love this story. I've always loved this story because it points out to us that we are often blinded to the possibilities in front of us. After suffering, it is easy to focus on what was lost, what is broken, and we can search for and punish who broke it, but that does not fix what is broken. We have to look beyond the traditional, beyond the expected, beyond the conditioned response to see what is not yet there, to imagine what is possible. You know, earlier in my first career, when I was in New York, a company I worked for went out of business. Jan, my wife, and I made the decision then to move to Florida. I moved without a job or a place to live because and I never would have moved if I still had a job. So, and out of moving to Florida, I ended up with a great career, one that I could not have imagined in New York, and I probably would have never become a minister if I had not moved to Florida. And so, you know, my life would have been much less if I just stayed where I was. So out of that sadness of losing my job and basically becoming homeless, good things ended up happening. As Albert Camus wrote, "In the midst of winter, I found there was within me an invincible summer." And I'm also reminded of the lines in Leonard Cohen's song, I didn't put the song name down. Oh, Anthem. "Ring the bells that still can ring, forget your perfect offering. There is a crack in everything. That is how the light gets in. So let the light in. Face your fears, look for the possible and imagine the impossible. It may not happen right away, but we have to create the conditions for when it is ready. Right? We have to pave the way and prepare ourselves, and even if not for ourselves, for our descendants. As the book of Ecclesiastes says in the Hebrew Scriptures, for everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time for uprooting the planted, a time for keeping and a time for discarding, a time for tearing down and a time for building up. And I would add there is a time for grieving and a time for hope. And now is the time when we need both grief and hope together, especially now. Brene Brown wrote this week, and I quote, that hope is a powerful antidote to despair. What's interesting is that hope is not an emotion. Hope is a cognitive behavioral process. It's about having a goal, a pathway to achieve that goal, and a sense of agency that I can do this. She talks of microdosing hope, taking small action to help those in need. And now is the time for creating something new, creating grassroots communities of care, creating communities of compassion, creating communities of courage, creating communities of kindness. These are not just coping mechanisms. These are acts of repair, and they are the stonecutter's chisel transforming what appears broken into something new and beautiful. We still know what our values are. Our tactics, our actions may have to change, but our values stand firm, and we stand on the side of love. Our Unitarian Universalist faith calls us to this work. We are the inheritors of a tradition that has always found hope in dark times. From the abolitionists to the civil rights movement, from women's suffrage movement to today's struggle for justice and dignity for all, for ourselves, for our congregation, for our community, for our country. May it be so. Please rise in body and or spirit for our closing hymn, number 169, We Shall Overcome.
Someday
Lisa Friedman, spirit of life and love, we live in a fragmented world that tempts us to despair. We would put it back together piece by piece if it were ours to choose. But sometimes the fragments are enough in a world of cruelty. There is still power in every act of kindness. And in a time of doubt, there is still power in every act of hope. In an age of division, there is still power in every act of unity. May we remember that sometimes the fragments of meaning that we make are just the right size to hold in our hands. Please join me now in extinguishing our chalice, which is already extinguished. But let's say the words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you all for your presence here today. Thank you. Go in peace, eat food, make friends, be good.